That night, upon arriving home, I felt a bit tipsy and weary. The echoes of spirited debates on politics, personal anecdotes, and work banter with my jovial drinking companions at the quaint bar still resonated in my mind, a blur of laughter and camaraderie. My son had been away on a business trip all day. Eventually, Linda, my son's spouse, returned to our abode. Her arrival brought with it a gesture of kindness as she gracefully served me a steaming bowl of milk, accompanying it with fragrant, sweet, and delectable cakes. The evening had unfurled swiftly amidst conversations and merriment, leaving me hungry despite our earlier libations at the bar. Despite having a drink at the bar, we barely had any food, and I felt quite hungry. As I savored the warmth of the hot milk on my lips, my gaze chanced upon Linda reaching for coffee high up on the cupboard, her movements accentuating her allure in a fleeting moment that ignited forbidden thoughts. At that moment, her robe pulled up slightly, emphasizing her seductive figure. A wave of desire washed over me, clouding my judgment. Her startled gaze met mine. A mixture of fear and confusion clouded her. Despite trying on that lovely robe, I said as I stood up and walked over to my sister-in-law. I hugged her, but she pulled away and looked at me with frightened eyes. "What are you doing, Lucas? You're very pretty. Are you drunk?" "I've had only a little to drink," I replied. Then I sat down and watched her drink her coffee. I wanted to pick the girl up in my arms, but I was stopped by the thought of her being my son's wife. "You, Linda, must be tired today. Go and get some rest. I still need to wash the dishes and the floor. I'll do it myself. Get some rest. Kent chased you away. He doesn't care for such a beautiful girl." Linda blushed and averted her eyes. "Kent is away on a business trip for 2 weeks. Whatever." As she set about washing the dishes, her silhouette cast a beguiling spell as I offered my assistance. "Let me help you," I said. I stood behind her and put my arm around her waist. This time, she didn't pull away. I got bolder. I dared to cross the threshold of decorum, lifting her in my arms and carrying her to the sanctity of the bedroom, a realm fraught with unspoken desires and whispered promises. "What about Kent?" asked Linda, panting. "Don't talk about him," I whispered. "In case he finds out, we won't tell him anything." "I can't do that. You smell so wonderful." "Lucas, what we're doing is wrong." Amidst her hesitation and protests, I sought to charm and reassure her, weaving a tapestry of seduction and deception in the fragile moments that followed. Words of admiration and reassurance mingled with whispered caresses, blurring the boundaries of right and wrong as forbidden passions danced in the shadows. "You're like a rose in the garden, and the most beautiful one at that," I persuaded my sister-in-law. But Linda didn't give in right away. "Lucas, Kent won't forgive. He won't admit it." I stood my ground. "Then, how will I look into his eyes? Forget about everything. Come to me." Things began to happen slowly. Then we were silent for a long time. I hugged my sister-in-law. She was crying quietly. "Don't cry, Linda. I give you my word that I will keep this secret." In the aftermath of our forbidden tryst, a veil of silence descended over our clandestine affair, shrouding it in secrecy as my son returned from his journey, oblivious to the discord that simmered beneath the surface. Now, as the weight of guilt and deception bears down on me, I find myself torn between duty and desire, caught in a web of tangled emotions that demand resolution in the shadows of my conscience.